Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about sentence types. So in this video, I'll talk about 3 of the English sentence types. We'll talk about simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. But before we talk about these, let's talk about some sentence basics that are true for all sentences. All sentences must have a subject and a verb, and correct punctuation. So punctuation means, for example, period, comma, question mark, exclamation mark. Now let's talk about simple sentences. A simple sentence has one subject. It could be a simple subject or a compound subject. A simple subject is just one noun or noun phrase. A compound subject is multiple nouns, noun phrases, or pronouns connected with and or. And one verb. And again, the verb could be a single verb or a compound verb, which is similar to a compound subject, multiple verbs connected with and or. Let's look at some examples of simple sentences. My brother lives in America. The subject, my brother, verb, lives. So single subject, single verb. My brother lives and works in America. My brother is the subject again, but this time there's a compound verb, lives and works. So there's 2 verbs connected by and. And so this is an example of a compound verb, but this is still a simple sentence. My mother and father are retired. Subject, my mother and father. Verb, are. So this is an example of a compound subject, where there's 2 nouns joined by and. My mother, father, and brother drive to my grandmother's house and visit her on holidays. So here we have a compound subject and a compound verb. But this is still a simple sentence. One subject, one verb, even though they're compound. So let's take a look at commas in simple sentences. So if there's 2 things in a compound subject or compound verb, no comma. For example, my brother and I. No comma here. But if there's more than 2 things, we should put a comma after each thing except the last. For example, my mother, father, and brother. So we need to put commas here. Okay, let's move on to compound sentences. A compound sentence is 2 simple sentences connected by one of these words, comma and, comma but, comma or comma so. So these are actually not the only words that can make a compound sentence, but these are the most common, and, but, or, and so. And also in English, we call these simple sentences independent clauses. And we'll learn more about that later. But you can think of a compound sentence as joining 2 independent clauses using these words, which are called conjunctions. And, but, or, and so. Let's look at some examples. I love coffee. I drink it every morning. We can connect these with comma, and. So these are both simple sentences. I love coffee, subject and verb. I drink it every morning, subject and verb. I could visit my friends. They could visit me. Again, 2 simple sentences, and we can connect them with comma or. I could visit my friends, or they could visit me. 2 choices. I have a guitar. I can't play it. So here are kind of different ideas. I have a guitar, I can't play it. We can connect this with comma, but. I have a guitar, but I can't play it. Last one. It rained a lot. The game was canceled. So here there's a cause-effect relationship. Comma, so. It rained a lot, comma, so the game was canceled. These are examples of compound sentences. Now let's talk about some common errors with compound sentences. I see these mistakes all the time. I have a guitar, but I can't play it. So this is not right. There's a problem with the punctuation. Remember, punctuation means commas and periods in this sentence. Here we go. I have a guitar, comma, but I can't play it. This is correct. Remember, there must be a comma before but. So but should not be at the beginning of a sentence, like in this top example. Comma but is correct. It rained a lot, so the game was canceled. Similar thing here. This is also not correct. So should not be at the beginning of a sentence in formal writing. It rained a lot, comma, so the game was canceled. And, but, and so should not be at the beginning of a sentence in formal writing. If it's informal writing, like if you're writing a text or writing an email to your friend, these rules don't matter. But for academic writing, you should not start a sentence with and, but, or so. Now let's look at complex sentences. A complex sentence has one of these words. And so there's a really long list of words here, and these are called subordinators. And actually, this is not the full list. There are other subordinators that are not on this list too. But a complex sentence must have one of these words. Okay, so how do we make a complex sentence? A complex sentence has two parts, a dependent clause and an independent clause. And what does that mean? Well, a dependent clause is a subordinator plus a simple sentence. And remember, the subordinator was from that big list of words. So one of those words plus a simple sentence, this is called a dependent clause. For example, because it rained a lot. So here we have the subordinator because, and then a simple sentence, it rained a lot. And the independent clause is just a simple sentence. For example, the game was canceled. And if we put these together, then we can make a complex sentence. So what order do we put these clauses in? Which one comes first and which one comes second? There's two ways to do it. You can put the dependent clause first, so a dependent clause, comma, independent clause. But notice there must be a comma if the dependent clause is first. Or you can switch it. Independent clause, dependent clause. And notice, in this case, there's no comma if the independent clause is first. For example, because it rained a lot, comma, the game was canceled. Here's the subordinator, and this is the dependent clause. Or we can switch it. The game was canceled because it rained a lot. Again, we have the subordinator and the dependent clause. But notice there's no comma in this example. Let's look at some more examples. I have a guitar, although I can't play it. The subordinator, although, makes a dependent clause. And since the dependent clause is second, no comma. Although I can't play it, I have a guitar. The meaning is the same, but the dependent clause is first this time. And notice there is a comma. So remember, with complex sentences, it uses subordinators like this. But there are many different kinds of meanings and many different complex sentences. So complex sentences are the most difficult to master just because there's so many new words and so many slightly different meanings. Now let's look at some differences between compound and complex sentences and some of the common mistakes that people make. So which of these sentences is wrong? I have a guitar, but I can't play it. I have a guitar, although I can't play it. Which sentence is wrong? The top one is wrong. Why? A compound sentence must have a comma before the conjunction. So always comma but, comma and, comma so. However, in the second sentence, it's a complex sentence, and so we don't need a comma if the dependent clause is second. Same thing. Which one is wrong? The game was canceled because it rained a lot. It rained a lot, so the game was canceled. Which one is wrong? Again, the first one is wrong. And again, the problem is with commas. So here in this top example, this is a complex sentence, and the dependent clause is second, so we don't need a comma here. The second sentence is okay. Many students have problems with punctuation, especially with and, but, and so. Remember, you should never put these at the beginning of a sentence in formal writing. Again, when you're speaking or writing something for a friend, it doesn't matter. But if it's an important document, then it does matter. And always remember to put a comma before these words. However, be careful. Remember at the beginning of the video we looked at compound subjects and compound verbs. So and does not always have a comma before it. It does if it's the conjunction in a compound sentence, but if it's in a compound subject or compound verb, it might not. So be careful. And with complex sentences, remember, if the independent clause is first, no comma. Okay, just some final tips. Good writers use all of these sentence types. Simple is not always bad. Some students have the idea that the more complex and the longer it is, the better it must be. However, sometimes it's fine to do simple sentences. Sometimes being correct is more important than being complex. So don't be afraid to use all three types, simple, compound, and complex, in your writing. Happy writing!